Hi, these are some of the pliers that we use from time to time. You might notice there's a few different ones here. Got some basic ones, the basic metal ones, where the operator has to open and close them using the strength of their own hands. And we've got the other type here, which actually has a spring in it, which allows the operator to open and close them much easier. And it's a much less stress on the wrist and elbows. So it's important to know your pliers and know which one to use. The other thing to look at before you use your pliers is have a look at the nylon jaws, because they do get marked from time to time because they're often used against metal frames. Sometimes you guys grip them really hard and you squash them, and that causes some little indents. Now this sort of stuff is easily repaired, because basically remove those screws and replace it with a brand new nylon jaw and you've got a brand new plier again. Looking at the selection of pliers here, you're probably going to use this double nylon jaw plier most of the time. You can use it in a 2-plier technique, where you use it to brace the frame and hold it in position whilst you get another angling plier to put angle on the frame. Then we've got another popular plier, which is this nose pad plier, which is again used very often and allows us to grip the nose pads and to make adjustments for all different shapes, even like a Roman nose like mine, which kind of roams all over my face. So you've got that one done. And we've got the long, thin snipe pliers here, which again also can be used to help adjust with the nose pads. They get into very tight areas. And we've got pliers here like the round flat jaw one, which allow us to open the width of the frame so we can do our final adjustments, so we can tailor the frame fit to the person's head width. And they're pretty much the majority of the time that you'll be using those pliers. Now there's one plier here that I've left to last, and that's this 3-piece rimless plier. 3-piece rimless frames are very fine, and they need to be supported. Quite often they have screws or plugs, and this particular universal design allows for the screw and any plug arrangement. So pretty much any of the hardware that the 3-piece rimless frame maker uses can be used with these pliers. Okay, so let's see how some of these are used. If I'm going to use this plier to adjust this frame, I may find that when I go to put this frame on the head, that the width of the frame is too narrow. So one of the things that I can do is I can actually use this plier, just grip it and slightly open up this angle here, which is called the let back angle. So I can actually use the plier, which has got a nylon jaw, and they'll protect the front of the frame, and this round conical jaw, well again, won't damage the metal. So this plier is actually very handy for a lot of adjustments, whether it's a small hinge like this, or a little bit more wider one like this one. It allows me to get in and open and close the angle as much as I like. I mentioned before we quite often use the nylon pliers, and they're very good, and we can use them in 2-plier technique. A lot of people, when they go to put an angle on the frame, go to use your hands and fingers. Now your fingers and hands are great, they're great tools, but they're not strong enough for the frames. So you're going to hurt yourself. So what you need to do is let the plier take some of that stress off for you. Now, some people if they only have one of these, will have to use their fingers to brace the frame and then put the angle on the frame like that. And you can see how I've actually tilted that forward. Didn't have to put much pressure on. Basically all I had to do was to roll my wrist. And again, the only problem here is gripping and supporting the frame with my fingers. It's not really recommended. So again, I can actually reduce that angle pretty safely by the use of the plier. If I've got 2 of these, it's even better, because I can actually use the plier here to hold the frame whilst I then do the adjustment. And that way I don't have to use my fingers, I don't have to try and hold the frame and hurt my fingers, and you can probably see got some lines in my fingers already from holding the frame. Okay, so these pliers are very handy, and then of course we move into the pad pliers. Now pad pliers have a flat jaw on the bottom which sits against the shoe or the flat part of the nose pad, and then there's an indent which actually fits into the nose pad arm holder. So basically you would have something that would grip in like this, and you've got the pad arm supported. Again, my fingers are just too fat, basically too round. I can't actually grab these. I can't actually do any adjustments with my fingers terribly much, very little control, and I could actually damage or break the pad arm. Using the pad plier, again, the tool does the work for me. If I need to turn it, I can just, by turning my wrist, I can open up the face of the pad, I can close it, I can widen it, I can do all sorts of things with it. So the pad plier is very, very easy to use and certainly takes the stress out of my fingers and my hands. And the snipe pliers, again, allows me to actually get into these tight areas in here, and allows me to do certain bends that I just can't do with my fingers. And if I do it with my hands, I just don't have the control. And you can see, I'm not really stressing, I'm not really pulling hard. What I'm doing is basically rolling my wrist. That's all I really need to do. And these pliers allow me to do that, so I can do my job safely, and I can make sure that I don't damage my frames. So that's the importance of using the appropriate frame adjusting tool for the different parts of the frame that you want to adjust. And finally, just before we go, I just want to show you the 3-piece plier, the rimless plier. As you can see here, this frame has no rim. So therefore, this little part here, where there's a lens and screw, and whatever the attachment is, whether it's a plug or a screw, there's not much space between that and the edge of the lens. And if I was to try and use my fingers to do an adjustment, the stress here will probably crack or break that lens. To avoid that, we need to have some support, and the supporting plier here would be a 3-piece plier. Here, that actually goes over, supports the lens and surrounds, covers the plug and the screw area, and that allows me to use my other pliers to then do my angling without damaging any of the lenses that are being used. So again, use the appropriate plier for the frame and frame part that you want to adjust.